everyone. You found us. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my Takeout, my Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We have a special show today. We're live on a Saturday because I did not need that much sleep. No, we're live on a Saturday because yesterday I went on show 80, whatever. This is 808, show 807. By the way, 808 is the area code of Hawaii. We did show 8. I did show 807 yesterday. Usually on Friday, I come on with Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, a friend of the show, Professor Emeritus, Asian American Studies, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. But Dan was indisposed. And so I went on and talked, and I want Dan to come back in because usually on Friday we have a spirited discussion about the things that happened during the week. And that would include things like the United Healthcare guy or his killer. The United Healthcare guy was killed, and the United Healthcare guy killer is a guy everyone's celebrating, which is a little off. I thought it'd be worth it to talk about that with Dan, and also about yesterday. If you listen to show 807, I talk about just what's wrong with insurance, what's wrong with how we cover people. And of course, my conclusion was privatized healthcare, not the way. You got to go to some kind of universal form, which we've tried, and that always gets shot down. So we've got a lot to talk about on the news with our friend Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, actually Professor Emeritus. One thing I noticed, I was listening to the news about Nancy Pelosi, and they called her Speaker Emerita Pelosi, and I said, when did she change her name? She's Emerita. She didn't like Nancy? No, Emerita. That's the feminine form of emeritus. Retired speaker. She's retired as a speaker, but she's still in the House. Anyway, last I heard, she's still doing well. She was injured in Luxembourg. I hope it wasn't. I hope she didn't fall or something. I hope it was something like she had a Vienna sausage stuck between her teeth or something, and she needed to be under observation or something. Anyway, let me bring up Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, because another big thing happened today. By surprise, caught everyone by surprise. And I guess you could say, are we still in San Francisco anymore, Dan? There was a tornado watch. A tornado watch?
Yeah. It was.
In
I
San
thought it was
Francisco.
strange. It was kind of. It said in this area. It did not say in San Francisco, and I kept looking for specific identification of a county, and
Yeah.
they never did that. But then later in the morning, when again it was revived, the possibility of a tornado was revived. They said San Francisco specifically, and I thought, oh, that's going to be interesting, And
First ever.
it is bad. It is really bad. It can go silent, and the wind can stop, and the rain can stop, or there could be rain without wind, and then suddenly a major gust that just blows everything over.
Yeah.
It's that extreme. The difference between 0 and maybe 50, 60 mile per hour wind on the ground. That's
Yeah.
on the ground.
And are you seeing anything like a
A spiral cloud or anything.
when you think of
Frankly,
tornado?
I wasn't looking for it. I was just trying to keep things from blowing away
Yeah.
from the yard and the driveway and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say it's bad, it's almost like an invisible bad. You don't know. That's what there's this idea that it could be like no gust and then suddenly a
Well,
gust.
several years ago, when tornadoes were a real rarity, except in the rural parts of California, but an extreme rarity in the suburbs and the more populated areas of California. I was returning from a speech or a guest speakership that I had done at UC Santa Cruz, and I was coming up. I had made it over from 17 to 85, and I looked to my east, and there was a funnel cloud forming, and I
Oh,
thought, this is weird. That can't be real. And so I immediately called Linda, from the car, and I said, I'm looking at a freaking tornado formation here. I don't know if it's touched the ground yet. So it's a funnel cloud, formally until it touches the ground, then it becomes a tornado. And so I didn't know if it was a tornado until later in the day when the news services said, in fact, there's not just one, there were two,
Yeah.
and in the same area. And
So
so I was
you've
just
seen
like,
them, you've witnessed them,
I've seen them. I've
and
seen
it's
them
really
live and
close.
in person.
Yeah, I've lived in the Midwest. I lived in Missouri for a while, and also in Texas. I've seen them. They're scary.
Yeah,
When you see them, where do I
sure.
go? Where
Yeah,
I go
which
the
way do
other
you go?
way.
That's right. And then,
Yeah.
I was on the freeway, and luckily, I looked over enough times to see that I was not moving towards it.
Mhm.
It was staying in one place and moving slightly north. I was
Yeah.
going slightly northwest, so we were
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
separated. But
all right.
anyway,
So today is it's like even where I am in my part of California, very windy, and some alarms went off around 6:15, 6:30. So it must have been we're in a contiguous area.
yes,
So it's just a storm warning that
yeah.
was similar to what you experienced because I had all the umbrellas in the backyard were down, everything was
Oh
flying.
man,
Yeah, it was pretty.
yeah. I was just
And the
afraid of
dog,
getting.
yeah, we have a dog alarm. Well, not the dog is the alarm. When the dog when the dog hears an alarm, the dog just goes like starts into this yodel kind of thing. Ooh, it's like I can't do it.
Really
Next time I have,
concerned. That's pretty
yeah,
good.
any kind of alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dog. Say, you know, I know as a Filipino guy, I should know more about dogs, but
But
I but no, my dog starts chortling or something,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah. But that's a flavor texture thing. What you're talking
yeah,
about? Yeah, this
yeah,
is
yeah,
different. This is
yeah.
different.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah,
This is strictly auditory. Yes.
auditory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when and my dog did it like around 6:30 when I know that the warning came out in San Francisco around 6:15 or something, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and then at that point there was the winds and the gusts, and we have more heavy rain coming up. I guess same thing where you are, right?
It's gonna continue.
Yeah,
There's supposed to be a little bit abatement around another couple of hours, and then it starts up again.
yeah,
So it
but
looks like the same kind of stuff is going to continue until Monday.
yeah, yeah, but you're safe. You're safe. You're
Well,
safe.
so far, but when
Yeah.
they well, they sent out follow-up warnings, and they
Mhm.
said specifically, if you get the tornado warning that there's actually one down, you have to head to the lower floors because they know
Mhm.
that a lot of the homes here in San Francisco are two floors, one floor
Yeah.
up, and stay away from windows and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, wait a minute, did we just land in Kansas? What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's no, it's scary when you don't. It's never happened in San Francisco. I was a native, lived there most of my life, never experienced a tornado.
Right.
Never.
Yep. Yep.
But
We
but
never heard of one when we were
yeah,
kids. I never heard of one in California. It was a really rare thing if it happened
yeah,
at all.
yeah. Well, but and then this, everyone is marveling, not marveling, but they're noticing this that it comes after, like a couple weeks ago there was a tsunami warning in San
Yeah, yeah.
Francisco, and
Big
that was
earthquake up the coast.
yeah, and there have been tsunami warnings in the past, and it's not unusual, totally unusual. It
Yeah.
can happen, but that turned out to be, I guess, a false tsunami warning. Didn't really happen. So
Well, yeah, because the movement underwater was sideways. It was horizontal rather than
right,
vertical.
but the idea though is that all this weather, we're getting all this weather
Yeah, that's
news.
right.
It's more important, and it's indicative of the climate change that many of us
Well,
want
but
to
that's
deny.
uh, theoretically more than 30% of Americans are anti-climate change, and it
Right.
ain't hap- There's at least 20% that say it's just not real. it's a hoax, and so we got a problem. We have a problem in American society, and the orange man is saying drill, drill, drill. We're already drilling. you
Yeah,
know,
we're drilling
it's
the
already
most.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're producing more oil and gas than some of the major oil and gas producing nations, and
yeah.
this guy's saying drill, drill, drill. Yeah,
Well,
it's
this
it's
is sort
upside
of
down.
the
Everything's upside down, inside out,
yeah,
and I have to try to teach this. I
yeah,
have to try to teach people that you got to watch out for disinformation and misinformation, because right now it seems as though the misinformation and disinformation is the majority of material that's accessible via the internet, and even mainstream radio.
yeah. Well,
It's
yeah, but
incredible.
and then you look at some of the proposals that come out that are based on some of that misinformation. Like when you see that Musk's lawyer is out there suggesting the polio vaccine be um, the policy be reversed, or or be stopped. I mean, did you see
Yeah,
that?
about getting kids shot in advance, like
Yeah.
before they go to school.
I mean, this is most of the science suggests that, at least in terms of vaccines, specific vaccines, the polio vaccine has been effective. What I worry about is if people start jumping on the uh, conspiracy bandwagon and jump on this. If Elon Musk thinks it's right, it must be good. Uh, I mean, there are people who will defer to
Oh,
him to that degree. You know that, and then suddenly they will see, oh, well, maybe we don't need vaccines, and then vaccines will go, and then some people will die, and they will be the collateral damage of our misinformation.
well, all you have to do is look at what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting reports from nurses around the Bay Area, because I've had several students that have become nurses, and over the years, some of them are reaching retirement at this point. But the we have someone chiming in on tornadoes.
Oh,
The issue around COVID was they were getting patients who insisted that COVID was a hoax, and then when they were really really sick, and this is before they could get Pavlovin and all that, right?
yeah, yeah,
They would swear up and down and say, "I thought it was a hoax," and
yeah.
only a few of them would do that. Others would actually get physical with the nurses
Mm,
and hit them. The women would pinch them or scratch them, and they're saying some nurses are already talking. They were talking about, I'm out. If this is
yeah,
the way this society is going, they weren't just looking at the COVID thing. They were saying there's a cultural shift in American society. These people are right next to crazy in terms of their lack of logic and progression of understanding of what's going on around us. And that's what they were afraid of. They were seeing this not as an incidental moment, right? But this was an indicator of what's to come in the future.
yeah. And so we're here at that future now,
But
where no one
yeah,
has any
all we got
credibility.
to do is get the next pandemic, and people like RFK Jr. and Elon Musk are actually paving the way for that to occur. And we're talking about measles, mumps. I'm old enough to remember when polio vaccine first got started,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, me too. Yeah. I remember
Jonas
the sugar
Salk.
cube. The sugar cube.
That was the oral version. The
Oh,
the original version was an injection. Okay,
I think
that's
I
how
might
old
have
I
gotten
am.
the
And
injection,
so
but I
we got
I
the
got the sugar
injection.
cube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we got the injection, and it was a big deal when the cube came out, because a lot of people are needle freaks. They're really anxious about needles, or even completely fearful they can't handle it, and so that was a big deal. The point that I was trying to make is people were still coming down with polio, and we could see people who had contracted polio. Okay,
Yeah.
and we could, they were partially crippled, or yeah, at least partially crippled. Others were in, remember the artificial lungs,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing was going on, and so along with polio, there was measles and mumps. People were still
Oh yeah.
catching that,
I
and it
had
was
mumps.
affecting whole schools. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
mumps. And
never got the mumps, but I got the measles, and but I was lucky. I contracted the measles probably in kindergarten or something even earlier than that. Probably a family thing, and
yeah.
our family well, the pediatrician that was treating me was also an obstetrician that had helped my mother give birth to me. Okay, he was still doing home visits.
And this,
So
this this isn't Dr. Ortiz.
no, no, this is
Uh,
a
we-
guy from St. Francis Hospital. His last name, can't remember his first name. Was McMurdo.
because we
McMurdo,
had Dr.
Scotland.
Ortiz. We had Dr.
Yeah,
Ortiz.
McMurdo, and he was, well, that's rare. Was and a Filipino doctor.
Yeah, he
Yeah, there were
was.
only a couple
Yeah,
in San Francisco at the time.
Dr.
Uh,
Ortiz. He
Dr.
was.
Ortiz was one. The earlier one was Duterte, Dr. Duterte.
Oh, Dr. Duterte came back as a dictator.
I
Yeah,
don't know if
different.
they're related. I'm sure there's some issues there about claiming,
Yeah.
familial relationship. But anyway, that's,
So
it's
what are we
scary.
gonna
It's
do?
scary that people are willing to do this. You know, on the one hand, I don't want people to suffer in this way. On the other hand, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take not just an occasional uh, situation where people can dismiss it as incidental. It's going to take like a classroom full of kids, a school full of kids. It's going to take adults contracting the disease. That's what it's going to take for people to understand, that RFK Jr. is just this side of nuts. I mean, I think maybe he's over the line.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the no some Nobel winners are coming out speaking out against his appointment. I think sometimes you can say, oh, we have to wait for collateral damage to see how to move the needle in terms of logic. But look at the gun control debate, and look at I said the same thing when those Sandy Hill kids were shot, by gunmen, and nothing happened. And this is what happens when politics gets involved, and
Well, bad politics. I mean,
bad
there's
politics,
yeah,
right?
bad politics. I want to address what Sonia Zhao has sent us. She says about 15 years ago there was a baby tornado that tore out the siding of a fruit stand in South City, that's South San Francisco, close
Yeah,
to where I worked in San Mateo County Services. That was exactly the time that I saw a tornado. Okay, at the same time. It was about 15 years ago. I remember the car that I was driving,
yeah,
and that's we had gotten that car at about that time. It was a new acquisition for us, and so that's it. That's probably the same day that
yeah.
Sonia's talking about.
Well, the thing is, they, according to reports, this was the first ever in San Francisco County
Yes,
tornado.
yes,
So it's still, it's an event, an historical event. You'll never forget it. If you
never,
woke up on Friday
never.
or on Saturday the 14th, Friday the 13th was fine. Saturday the 14th, we had the tornado. And they're still kind of figuring out, well, how many trees are down and what actually happened.
Oh
And
yeah, man.
I mean, the wind, there
Yeah,
was a
well, earlier
tornado.
in the
The wind.
week, did you see all that stuff happening in Berkeley and Oakland? And that was just local, you know, with trees crushing entire houses
Yeah.
in one instance. In another instance, it split the house in half. oh, you know,
Yeah.
it was unreal. And then you got the car accidents, on top of
Oh, yeah.
that. So, it's really a smart thing in driving rain to speed, to
Well,
go.
it's a different thing. Like when I was in Houston and there was a lot of rain, uh, people don't know how deep the water
Oh, yeah.
is, and they just either speed or think that they're just going to come through the other side, and then they end up in a gully, or they end up trapped
Yep.
because
Well, it happens here.
yeah.
It happens
So
here. And
be
there,
safe if you're out
yeah.
there. I know if you're listening to this, you're probably at home on your computer or maybe you're on your phone, but be careful. The weather's
Yeah,
going to
you have
start
to
up
know the
again.
roadways. You really do have to know the roadways and anticipate the likelihood that those kind of things can happen. You have to know all of the low spots. And when you're in Marin on
Yeah,
101, and on when you're on 80 and 580,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of low spots because those roads go near the shoreline,
Yeah.
and so they're susceptible to flooding. Not only when there's heavy rain, but don't forget the king tides, especially
Yeah.
if we have a super tide, right?
Hey, my daughter went down to the Monterey area. The 17-mile drive is closed today
Okay.
because the massive storm, and I don't know if they got a tornado warning, but bad all over the coast, up and down
Yep.
the coast, and even inland where I am in the valley, it's kind of the wind, the wind.
Yeah,
All right, so this
I
is
was
why.
worried that we might not even be able to connect, because it might
Oh
affect
well,
the
yeah.
internet and all the rest of that stuff. But
Well, anyway, we got
we're
the internet.
solid for now.
So let's this is the reason why you have insurance. You have insurance so that you
Yeah.
pay the high deductible, and then when you say, "Oh, I got $900 worth of damage," and they say, "Oh, your deductible is $1,000. Thank you very much." This is the problem with insurance. You can take this uh, property casualty insurance metaphor that I've used, extend it to healthcare. It's the reason why we have insurance, but it's also the reason why people are upset with insurance, specifically health insurance, when people have a high deductible and everything's underneath the deductible, or they just aren't covered, they're denied. And because insurers feel the need to deny, because they're protecting their profit, they don't care about your health, they care about the amount of money they have to pay out claims. And if everyone's getting sick in a certain way, they end up adjusting and saying, well, I guess we're not going to be able to honor that. We're not going to be able to fix that issue. We're just not
Well,
going to honor.
the easy parallel is fire insurance in California.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
easy parallel. Look at what's happening right now as we speak in Southern California in
Right.
Malibu,
Yeah.
and people are already getting notices from insurance companies that it's over.
Sorry. Yeah.
We're
Sorry. We're not going to pay for this.
not any. Well, I don't know if it's that as much as it is they know they're stuck for the bill now because they got a contract,
Yeah.
but they're saying it's over after we pay
Oh,
you
yeah.
off. No
Yeah.
further insurance, and so whole areas now
Oh,
that
yeah.
have
Yeah.
a high potential for fire are now being redlined. We used to talk about redlining as an urban factor, right?
Yeah.
That a place was so depressed, and that the construction there and need for reconstruction is so absolute that we're not going to we're redlining it, and the banks are not going to give loans to people who want to purchase there, all that kind of stuff. And remember when they redlined the whole beach area in
Yeah.
San Francisco, right off of Ocean Beach.
Yeah. For sand
Uh,
insurance. No.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. The
It
thing is, look, insurers are in the business
making
not to
money.
help you. They're
That's
they're
right.
in the business to make money
Make
for
money.
profit. And so they have the actuarial chart, so they know when they have no business anymore, because they know the number of occurrences for a certain X of something happening.
Sure.
So they'll insure that to the point of it's no longer profitable. And then when it's not profitable, they'll say, sorry, denied, or sorry, we'll redline, or sorry, we'll do something else. And because the insurance business is the greatest business around. You give money to the insurer for something that won't happen. And
Well,
then
that
or
might
may or
happen,
may
but
not. It might
yeah,
happen.
might
But
happen, but that's the whole thing. That's what
yeah,
actuarial means.
but
So
yeah, but
what are the potential?
the
What's
thing
the
that you
potential?
buy, the
Yeah,
thing that you buy is the good feeling that you are protected. The- You
that
know,
if something happens, somebody's going to pay.
yeah.
You're not going
Well,
to have to. You're not going to have the burden all to yourself.
right. It's that good feeling of having that invisible shield or umbrella. Oh, I'm protected.
Hmm.
That's what you pay for. Because I've had a lot of people say, "Well, I paid all this money and nothing. I got nothing." No, we gave you that good feeling. Remember that good feeling? that good feeling that, oh, you got the umbrella. You know,
Well,
the
there's
umbrella.
the life insurance is a little bit different, right? Because
Oh no, it's the
yeah,
same
because
because you know you
no,
die or
well,
you
no,
live.
but it's not a nothing. Okay, it's not a nothing because you can do whole life, right? I mean,
Yes.
I'm saying this to a guy that's licensed, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
you can do whole life, but even
yeah.
that is maybe not the best investment, but you're protected. There's money, you know, there's
You got some
dividends that pay out.
principle. You got some principle. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
payout later on
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
However, though, for most people who buy term life insurance, it's just like, hey, you know, I paid this money and nothing happened, and
Sure.
you know,
That,
and
that's I'm doing that
why?
right now. I'm
Yeah, and
doing that right now.
yeah,
And
and
why
you
am
know,
I doing it? I'm doing it for the sake of my kids. I don't want
yeah,
them to be burdened, right? So
right, right. Well, the thing is, people usually when times require some kind of budgetary constraints, people the first thing to go is an insurance premium. No, we
yep.
don't need that. We may
Yeah. And
actually
then
the best thing you could do if you want to save money on insurance, self-insure. It I mean
set
it like
set a bundle of money aside. Yeah.
right. I mean, it's especially if you don't want to enrich anyone with insurance, although sometimes that's the idea that people have. Oh, I got $1 million policy, Alden. If you die, I'll be wealthy. Well, because it's tax free. But
And here's
but
my
they,
new 9 millimeter. Isn't it intriguing?
yeah, right. Well, see that's the thing. Uh, people don't. Uh, the whole insurance game is really predicated on we'll protect you. It's worth it because if something bad happens, uh, you'll have coverage. But the self insurance thing, like just take something easy like a burial plot. You know, a lot of people buy $10,000 policies to cover for their insurance, and then they pay $100 a month for you know, that's $1,200 a year. They pay that for 20 years and they've paid more than to the insurance company than they would have to if they just bought a plot. you know I mean, there's ways, and so if you're disciplined enough to set aside the money, you can self-insure. Anyway, you can't self-insure when you're talking about a house that's worth tens of thousands or hundreds of
That's
thousands of
right.
dollars, not as
That's right.
easily. And so that's where the insurance companies have everyone over the barrel. But what worries me is if the insurers are bailing out, it's because the reinsurers, the people who are insuring the insurance companies, they're bailing out and they're feeling the
Yes.
pressure and they
That's
don't
right.
want to pay the money. They just want to pay them because they've had it so good for so long, right? Because like I said, when you pay a premium to the insurance company and nothing happens, that's the best thing. They just put that money away and they create this pool of money that then they loan out to people and do businesses and all that. That's why Warren Buffett is, a billionaire, right? It's all on insurance and reinsurance. He owns Geico. So,
Well, people. Uh, Part of the problem is people really don't understand how the system works. So,
yeah,
there's basic economics and how the system works, and that basic economics is not how the stock market is doing. You know,
right.
it is what's happening on the ground, and the Democrats did a terrible job, right, of addressing people's actual experience on the ground. Instead, they're saying, "Look, our economy is the envy of the world."
Yeah.
Really, people all over the world want to pay $7 for a dozen eggs. That kind of, that's
Well,
crazy. That was
it,
really stupid.
yeah,
You know, we spent a lot of time calling different sides of all the political, machinations, right? Stupid. The Democrats were genuinely stupid in that approach, and so it really did not help, that Harris and Waltz didn't come out and identify very absolutely with people
yeah,
who were going through that. Now, so that's one problem. And then they don't understand banking, okay?
yeah,
And then and insurance is above banking, right?
yeah,
So like you just said, and above insurance is reinsurance, which is banking again.
yeah. Yeah, because
you know
and it's banking because if they consider what happens when you take a premium in from a customer
yeah,
and you don't pay it out, it just sits in a pool of money that grows
that's
and
right.
grows. They have tens of billions of hundreds of
That's
billions
right.
of dollars. And what do you do with this money if you have it? You loan it out. You
Yeah,
loan, you loan it out at
it's banking
7,
again.
8%, whatever,
That's
you know.
right.
And
So that's the relationship between the two. I got a lot of questions from people who are college graduates, and
yeah,
they had to have taken some form of Econ 100 and 101 to get the hell out of college, right? Okay, and they're asking, could you explain insurance? And it's like, whoa, come on, man, why am I paying all this money for something that may or may not happen? And yeah, the logic of that question is fine,
yeah,
but it's the math and the ratios, right, based on actuarial tables.
yeah.
That's what they don't understand.
Well, see, and this is where Luigi Mangione,
Oh
who will
man,
go down in history as the
the
Super Mario
suspect, right?
killer.
He is the prime suspect.
Yeah.
He
Oh, right,
you know
right. We don't want to convict him. We don't want to convict him now. But he's the I dub him the Super Mario killer just because, he's
oh
Luigi.
no, God,
He's
it's terrible.
Luigi. He's Luigi. But here's the thing about the Super Mario killer. Uh he has brought attention to this idea that and the people at United Healthcare will cop to this. They in the New York Times editorial op-ed yesterday, they said, "Hey, yeah, we don't explain things. We don't They don't communicate. They don't explain why they do the things they do." And if you look at their letters, their letters look like it's dot matrix form letter, and like they don't care about you. See, they lack so much empathy. This is where a lot of people uh, had some sympathy for Luigi because, well, first of all, you call him a Luigi instead of alleged suspect,
Mhm.
and suddenly, oh, he's a real person. You see his bushy eyebrows, and suddenly he's a real person, and he's actually speaking some sense
Yes,
because the insurance company has not explained anything to the public or to consumers about why they do what they do, why they deny, why
he's
they
he's doing a better job, okay, of forcing the issue so that insurance companies have to start explaining themselves, right. He's doing a better job of doing that than the Democrats.
oh yeah, that's true.
Okay, so
Yeah,
so that to me is really ironic, right, that this guy has to
yeah,
get so angry and so pent up that he has to
yeah,
kill somebody, and he picks this guy particularly because it's healthcare, and United Health is the biggest one, right,
yeah, yeah,
for several years now it's been bigger than Blue Shield Blue Cross, which used to
yeah,
be the biggest. So I'm sure that the Blue Shield Blue Cross people are saying, "Whoop, glad it wasn't me." But
yeah,
at the
yeah.
same
but but
time,
you but you know
yeah,
that
everybody's going to have to security up now. They're going to
yeah,
have to. They're going to get strong security, and it's a restriction on your movement. I
yeah.
mean,
Well, the thing is that it is, when you look at it, it is kind of a heartless business unless you show some empathy, unless you can tell people why you're doing what you're doing to deny a case. I mean, like I used an example yesterday. I had to do, I had some oral surgery on Thursday, and they did not count it as a medically necessary procedure.
so it's
They
not
don't care.
insured.
Yeah, they don't care if I have a back molar, but they said that if I have a back molar, it's for cosmetic reasons. My back molar, so I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
chew as
yeah.
I chew my
But
spinach.
see, if you match it with an extraction on the other side,
Oh yeah,
then
then you're balanced. You're
no,
balanced.
see, yeah, and you'll get that sunken cheek look that.
Actually, I
Pe-
have I have an extraction on the other side, and I'm going to have the other thing. I'm going to have implants too, and I'm having implants, and it's not for that new job I have at Hooters. I'm having implants.
Oh God.
I'm having I'm
Oh
having
man,
I had dental implants, and they said that these implants were cosmetic only. So
that's
I'm
right. That's
I
what they do. It's
yeah,
cosmetic.
I'm
They do the same thing with skin issues. Some things
skinny.
they have a little list, and
Yeah.
so if you have something like a mole, even if it's non,
Oh, skin
cancerous.
issues. You said skin issues. I thought you said skinny shoes. I said skinny shoes. What are
No,
skinny
no,
shoes?
that
Oh,
you're working
skinny
towards a
shoes.
bad that's a bad Filipino accent joke. Excuse me. we
Skinny.
we don't want to get into those, man.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
Oh,
those.
yeah, because
Uh,
it,
yeah, yeah. No,
okay,
and so yeah, yeah, glaucoma or something,
yeah,
So,
skin issue,
yeah,
skin
those things.
issue.
If it's an emergency enough and it looks like it's precancerous, then that'll be covered. But if they can distinguish it away by saying it's only cosmetic,
Yeah.
there's no serious health risk here, right? They'll
and
do
and
that.
that and that's the thing. That's what they do. That is someone has figured out that is the boilerplate language. Not medically necessary, or or they look at the actuarial charts. Like I had, this was one of the first years, and I had to do with my with medical doctors and hospital care, and I had to do something about my ears, and I had one. This is funny. Well, not funny. It's just,
Let- well, let's
it's
see.
well, no, it's kind of revealing. United Healthcare, if I got something, some kind of aid for my hearing, they covered it 100%. That's good for United Healthcare, right? And I switched the company that I was with or am with, switched to the Blues, and with Blue Cross, they do not give aids hearing for people over 19, but they provide it for people under 19. The the
Wow,
who under 19. I guess if you
that
played
many
lead
people.
guitar since you were 10 years old and had lost your hearing playing rock and roll, maybe you need a hearing aid.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they went and they said, okay, all these people who need it, you don't get it with us, but we'll provide it to the people who don't need it because that's insurance.
Yeah,
We
we
provide the help to people who don't need it.
we have some elder neighbors.
Yeah.
We live in a neighborhood where the homes were among the first sort of suburban tract homes.
Mm.
There's several different model designs,
The
and so
Eichlers, the
it
Eichlers.
doesn't look like, no way. That's post World War II stuff and slightly pre World War II. This stuff, the houses are now 100 years old
Oh wow.
where we live. Okay, so um, a lot of the homes are owned by second generation owners, so their parents, who are now mostly deceased, right, were the people original buyers of the original construction, you know
Right.
and back in the 1920s.
So
so
those
so
are
they
old houses.
now need hearing aids, and some of them, including the largest of the insurance companies, uh, don't get hearing aid insurance. I mean,
Right, right.
it's not paid for,
Hey,
and so we help them find the best quality hearing aids they can get for the least amount of money. And
y- you know, for the longest time, the law changed about 2, 3 years ago. They allowed hearing aids to be uh, purchased
covered,
over the counter.
yeah, they would
Yeah,
be covered. Yeah,
and to be covered. But that's why you had I don't know it was hard to get, and they were expensive, and now the
that's
prices have
it.
gone down. You can go to you can buy them
Well,
at
you just hit
Costco.
the word. You hit the word expensive.
Yeah,
What changed was the technology. The hearing aids got a lot smaller, got a lot more effective. They're inside the ear, right? And they're a little more comfortable, and they work really well. The battery life is longer. All of that stuff that comes along with miniaturization, and
yeah,
so the expense goes up, right? And
yeah.
that's what they don't want to cover. When it was hearing aids that were really obvious. I remember when they had a separate box, right,
Yeah.
and a wire, so they had a microphone.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
a lot of those things. I mean, some of them are some of them are crap. Some are better than others. You
right.
got
Oh
to get.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a and you get what
Eh,
you pay for.
Yeah. Well, but it's not necessarily the best quality hearing for the highest amount of money. That
Right.
relationship is not necessarily determined. We
I
got
just
another comment.
I know this guy. This guy
Nicholas.
is my I know him from college. He's a former roommate of mine. Hello there, Nick. We see you.
We're talking Harvard.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. Because at Lowell High School, we weren't allowed to room. We had to do it in our used Mustangs in the parking lot. What? What are you talking about, Emil? No.
you could do it in a Mustang. Oh, come on, man.
Well, you
The
have
seats didn't go down, and the
you
back. You
circumvent the
know, I
hump
don't
in the
know.
back.
I'm
You
just,
circumvent the
you
hump in the
know,
back.
I'm
Anyway, no,
reviewing the
Nick.
comic book.
Nick is
I'm reviewing it, and I'm not seeing the back seat of a Mustang.
all right, all right. It was
All right, all
what did
right.
it?
He
It was
says,
Kama Sutra times. They didn't have
Mr.
the Mustang.
Carlin says,
Nick,
related to
wait, Nick
George.
Carlin. Wait, I got to give you the lead. It Nick
Oh,
Carlin
okay.
he's a college roommate, a friend of the Guillermo family, and he is he knows what he's talking about because he's a member of the California Bar. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Good for
And I
you.
know the bar. The bar in I think it's in North Beach. The bar. Uh, Nick
He
says,
says insurance companies make their money on the float. That's right. He's a lawyer. You can tell
"Yeah,
he's a lawyer, and he knows something.
the float's
The longer
everything."
they keep money, the more they make on it. Yeah, this was I got one of my highest grades, man, in law school was corporations. And one
Yeah,
of the things that we learned in corporations was about insurance companies in relationship to banking. And so, yeah, he's right. The longer they keep your money, so delay, defend, deny. And that's that language, right, comes from actual cases, right? And
right.
sometimes that language is quoted because somebody's making that argument in court. As
Yeah,
Nicholas well knows, Mr. Carlin well knows,
yeah,
and then the judges pick from those arguments, okay, and use that language in their decisions. So it's not just people out on the internet, on TikTok using delay, defend, deny. This is actually coming from legal arguments.
oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And and to get him on the bullet casings, the guy should have been an engraver, right?
He says he's definitely a member of the bar. Yeah, which one,
Yeah.
man?
The one in North Beach.
Okay. What do you mean the one? I mean,
There's only
we
one bar in
we eat
North
in
Beach.
North Beach all the time, man. And there's bars right next door to where we are. I mean, and some of the
Yeah.
restaurants got some great bars now. So you don't even have to
That's true. That's
you
true.
don't have
Well,
to walk
that
down the block.
that's a real San Francisco tradition. The
Oh, no
neighborhood
kidding.
bar that had a kitchen,
Yep, yep.
and and they always had
Vesuvio's all right.
well Vesuvius. Right?
that's that's really old school, man. It's
Yeah.
right next to City Lights across the
Yeah.
alley.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's
City
across the
Lights
street.
bookstore.
Yeah. So,
Tosca, all right.
well, oh,
This guy,
Tosca's good too.
he's a real native, man. This is dude's. Yeah, Mario, this is cool.
Marcus.
Yeah,
Okay.
man. Yeah,
All
see,
right.
well, Nicholas, I got a weakness. I've had a weakness since college, since my first trip into Mexico, for mezcal. So it's like a 60-year love affair, and so it's lasted all this time. So yes, those are great North Beach bars, but there's a couple of places like on Divisadero
Oh,
that
what's on
that
Divisadero?
do mezcal. I don't know. I just know where the place is.
Oh,
Besides, the only place I know by name is
yeah.
Brenda's. That's it.
Brenda's.
Yeah, Brenda's.
Where's Brenda's?
Oh man, he's got to go. No, Nicholas. All right, have a good time. Hopefully, we'll run into you or tag us, man.
Yeah.
Hit Emil up with a text, and we'll go out and celebrate. Italian bars.
Hey, look. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Nick. He's a Libra too.
Oh man, no wonder we get along. We got. I'm a Libra. Your wife's a Libra. My wife's a Libra. My dad was a Libra. Hey,
the
we can't all
astrology.
be crazy at the same time.
Bring in the astrology when you want to overcome any credibility issues.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, they believe in astrology? Oh,
Yeah, it's great that he was able to chime in on a Saturday morning,
yeah.
man. That's
Well,
that's so cool. So
sometimes there are people listening. Sometimes there are, and they listen at all times of the day. And but they really should join my Patreon, patreon.com/ Emil Amok, and then they get other things. They can join, and they can, because usually it's rare that we will stop and answer people on the live, but you can join us and answer and post questions and talk to us back, or talk back to us on the Patreon, on the Patreon patreon.com/ Emil Amok. So Dan, let's get back to the insurance thing. What is now? Medicare is the ideal, right? And that is universal health care for old people.
oh
And
boy. Yeah,
shouldn't it be universal health care for everyone? I mean, that really is where we're going,
it
right?
should, but the
Or
question is
should
who's going to
that's where
pay
we
for that?
should be going?
Yeah, the question
Well,
it should be. Okay, but the question is who's going to pay for that? You know, on our last trip to Europe, in my conversations with our tour guides and drivers,
mm,
my questions were simple. How do you feel? You got this tax burden, but is you get adequate coverage and health insurance? How much does it cost to go to school, especially college? How quick and effective are the health services? The medical services, emergency services, and they were all positive. They were all positive about this. Okay, and then he
mhm,
said, "Well, what's going on in the U.S.?" And I said, "Well, they don't want. They call insurance for all socialism,
yeah,
and they say we don't want that because it's socialism. And then they equate what you have in most European countries and England and even Canada, right? They say
mhm.
we don't want that. That's like Europe. We don't want to be like Europe. And so they literally look at me and say, "What? Yeah, they don't want to be like Europe. That's it. That's their big thing, man. We want to be what we are. We're special, right? We're,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know." And so they're saying, I said, "Yeah, I know it's not very logical, but that's the way it is." And so the logical problem is, right, it's an economic one. Who's going to pay for that? All right. And the only guy that's come up with a solution that works is Bernie. Senator Sanders said, tax the hell out of billionaires. They make over $1 billion a year, 100% tax. Okay.
See,
So you're,
that would make sense. That would make sense. Only Bernie Sanders had an answer, and Bernie's plan was closer to being accepted by more people. At least so that you can talk about it. But everyone who has tried to bring it up, or bring up a like a watered down version, it usually gets so watered down that it's no longer
no.
universal health care. I mean,
And
the
that's the
only
point.
thing, I mean, they
That's the point.
prioritize. They prioritize pre-existing conditions, and they prioritized, choosing your own doctor, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, those are the give and takes, and then, but the big one was, uh, you know, everyone in the pool, universal health care,
Yep. Yep.
Medicare
Yep.
for
And
all.
it would work. But, it's going to be who's going to pay for that. They're already, I mean, uh, I don't know if it's going to happen because it's got to get past Congress and cutting Medicare and Social Security are the
Yeah,
well-known third rail, right? Political third rail.
yeah,
So meaning if you touch that, you're going to get electrocuted to death, and
yeah,
so people are concerned. The number one thing about being in Congress or holding any kind of elected office is, particularly in Congress where there's no term limits, right? Is you got to hold on to your job, and so that's the main thing. Now you could see how effective, right, Mr. Trump and his campaigners are in threatening, the Heritage Foundation, threatening people who aren't going along with the appointments of some of the people who are really in question at this point. There are at least 4 or 5 of them that are highly questionable and that are going to be challenged to some degree. But even the people who were critical of them initially are backing off now because of the threat of being primaried.
Yeah. Well, the thing when I saw from a right wing news source that Pete Hegseth is saying he's reversing. They said that Pete Hegseth flipped on women in the military and gays in the military, and so women in combat, and so maybe that's going to woo the female senders who were a definite no a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah, okay. I like what you're saying. I mean, that's true. That's what's going on. But what the woo part is what I like, because that's just a cover. Okay.
yeah,
The thing that's really scaring them is the possibility that they will get primaried and they'll lose their job. Okay.
oh yeah, yeah,
And it's not only about their job, it's also about the way they feel about their mission, that personally they're committed to doing good things for the country. They
yeah.
really believe that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but then, see,
And
this is the part. This is what makes politics so such a dirty thing. And I take off my hat to those who can survive and play the game. People who I detest, absolutely detest, they manage to hang in there, like Lindsey Graham. Congratulations! I take my hat off to
well,
you.
look at McConnell for decades.
McConnell, all the people on the left and the
Are you going
right.
to tip your hat to Ted Cruz?
Well, he's hung in there. He beat Colin Allred. He a challenger, a strong challenger, and yeah, I tip my hat to him. I tip my hat to even on the right or even on the left rather. All the people on the left have the same issue. They gotta somehow you know uh, stay on, and that means you have to sometimes compromise where you stand. Or where you are is just like that money from the insurance companies or with the insurance company. You're on a float. You know,
Yep. Yep.
you're floating back and forth between, oh, I'm for women in the military, I'm against them. I'm for them now. And
Yeah,
and Trump,
Hegseth is giving those people who are threatened by the possibility of being primaried. He's giving them cover.
yeah,
I don't believe for a second that he's earnest in his beliefs. Okay.
no, he's not. And
And
people should understand that when they hear him say, oh, well, see, people outside would say, oh, forget the cover. If he's just doing it for this to get the votes, I
yeah.
don't like him. But it enables the people who are stuck to say, okay, we're going to vote for him. But I don't think that's going to be. See that makes people more. I don't know, more distrustful of government, more distrustful of the leaders if they know that a guy like Hegseth, who if he were a person of color, he wouldn't still be on. He'd be out of
Well,
this business.
it's going to be very interesting to see what happens after the 20th, of January.
Yeah.
We're just over a month away, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Hey, should
What do
we?
you think? Are we done with the? What do you
Well,
think about? What do you think about the fact that there's so many people, especially on social media, that are coming out in support of Mr. Mangione?
yeah, that's sort of the I mean, what to do with healthcare, what to do with insurance, that's one issue. But the bigger issue is what's happening to our country
That's
when
right.
more people are saying, "Oh, this guy killed a CEO, kill the CEO." If you're for I mean, in some ways, Luigi is no better than the insurrectionists who wanted to, hang Mike Pence, who wanted to go after the congressman. And we can't be for that. I mean, we've got to be for rule of law, voting, democracy. We've got to be for all that, and
Well,
there's no excusing Luigi,
rebellions change comes faster, okay, as a result of revolution.
right?
Revolution occurs after usually a series of rebellions which that fail occur. Okay, so you have failed rebellions, sometimes decades apart, sometimes only months apart, and then you
Right.
have something that is organized so well that it becomes a revolution, and sometimes those revolutions are successful. Now, uh, do you see Luigi Mangione as a person who uh, is traveling slightly ahead of a more organized rebellion.
Uh, I don't know. Where's is there an organized rebellion? I mean, because I don't see him as a MAGA type.
I don't I don't either. Okay, but
Yeah.
but but I know that there's not a visible organized rebellion right now. Okay,
Yeah.
but there are certainly a, a lot of people. There is a growing chorus on social media that all are taking the same or very similar positions on these issues. So the potential for organizing is there.
Right. Well,
Okay.
it's just like, this is the how the first part of the shock wave before it hits, it doesn't just like come on and boom. It's like a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit,
Yeah.
and then boom, right? So we're in the little bit, little bit, little bit. He's ahead of it, ahead of the curve somewhat, well, a lot, but will it somehow supercharge that bubble coming up, right?
Yep.
That that grows. It could. I don't know. I mean, he's kind of like the right wing scion, right? Who has gone woke, gone or not woke, but has gone radicalized
What's
in
what's the
terms of
connection with
capitalism.
the right wing scion?
Well, because his mother
His
and
background?
father, yeah, his
Yeah.
background, his parents were realtors, real estate developers. They were philanthropists. They owned a conservative Christian radio station. I mean, I know that WCBM in Baltimore, they're one of the most conservative radio stations. They were even to the right of Rush Limbaugh, right? And so he came out the other way, right? Instead of being the right wing scion that they exalt, he became this left wing guy, or more progressive or more radicalized guy. He went to Penn, which is, they want to dump on Ivy League schools when they don't just say he went to Penn. They say he went to an Ivy League school, and then he got uh, he got an MA in engineering there too as well. It just seems to me that this
Got a gig at
radicalization,
Stanford. Yeah.
yeah, but the radicalization, I guess, as a professor, you see it, right?
All the
Kids
time.
come up, kids come up, and they become radicalized.
Yeah. The question when I see that is this person a member of an organized group? Okay. And if they are, what are the objectives of these groups? And are they militant enough that they would be willing to do violence? You know, and with the Black Panthers, for example, um, it started out as a defensive organization. They were into carrying arms as an act of preventative measures of defense against well-known police aggression. Okay, it was happening all the time, and had happened throughout the history of the relationship between the police as an institution and black people. You know, and the organizing of police was essentially a slave catching operation, right? Initially, and that's proven history. People don't want to hear it. They don't want to know that, and the same thing is true about the general population. I think they don't want to hear that people are willing to do violence, as Mr. Mangione is accused of doing, right, or suspected of doing so far. But at the same time, they're saying, we can kind of understand why he did this, right? The news also plays up the fact that he's got screws in his spine, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know what that has to do with his attitude towards healthcare insurance.
Well, the report yesterday said that he did not have a direct relationship with United Healthcare. That he
No,
only
not at
had
all.
yeah, an ideological
That's right.
relationship, saying that
Well, they say it's ideological, but once again, we don't know. I mean, I agree with you that he's doing something that is certainly not acceptable by even a radical right wing position. It is not coming. He is not coming from the right. He is not coming from, as you put it, the position of a conservative scion, even though his familial background, right? I don't know. He has a cousin, I think that is a state,
a state legislator
yeah,
in Maryland.
and it would be interesting to see what that person's positions are on many of these issues. But Baltimore is like Oakland 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's still basically run by white elites,
Oh yeah.
even though it's a very strong African American and people of color population.
Oh, very strong. I went to Baltimore a couple years ago. I did a fringe festival there, and the fringe was actually in a place that was they're a place they were trying to renovate and gentrify and make it into not gentrify in a bad way, but just clean it up, take some pride in Baltimore and the arts and the people there. It's much more integrated than um, some cities here on the West Coast, uh, but a lot of poverty, a lot
Yeah,
of poor
yeah,
people, and that's what struck me. A lot of closed down shops in these areas that people are trying to revive,
yeah.
abandon. People abandon them for the suburbs, for the exurbs.
Well, that's the
As
same thing that happened in Oakland.
yeah.
You know,
So
There's-
yeah, I mean the so-called inner city. Um, they were trying to revive it. And I was in a little space there, and it was fun. It was a great film fringe festival, but there were times when I thought, wow, it's kind of people were warning me about when to go out at night in at times in
yeah, which
Baltimore.
places not to, which streets to not walk on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I got
and
that warning. I was there for a panel um, at the Reginald Lewis Museum,
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
uh, I was housed at Johns Hopkins, actually.
yeah,
Uh,
which is a ways. It's not.
yes, yes,
It's not downtown down there
no,
by the harbor.
yeah, but I
But
but I walked the whole way
yeah,
from Johns Hopkins all the way down to the harbor
yeah,
and back, and through a neighborhood that looks more black than not,
yeah,
but also looked more like our old Tenderloin. Not
yeah.
as bad as it is now, but like
Oh yeah,
Tenderloin on let's say Polk Street rather than Hyde Street.
yeah.
Hyde or Larkin or Leavenworth, which is
A
really
subtle
awful.
difference. A subtle
Yeah,
difference.
a subtle
But
difference. Yeah.
but but it's
So
and
I am familiar with what you're saying. I mean, it is true. You're describing it very accurately. You know.
well, it's just and one was there's this big market there that everyone goes to, and it's not like a suburban. It's like a more an urban market,
Hmm.
and it was like a hub, the center, and it was a great place to visit. But it shut down early because it was not safe in general. The neighborhood. Now this was like 3 years ago, 3 4 years ago, and since then, they've had other things going on that unfortunate. And they're all cities are struggling. But
Yeah,
anyway, this guy. So when I heard privilege in Baltimore, wow. Well, the elites in Baltimore, they do exist,
it's real. Well,
and
you brought up another point. It might be worth talking about for a moment, anyway, and that is everybody wants to hate on Ivy League now.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Why is that? I mean, I think it's Claudine Gay was the first black president, and she got dumped unceremoniously after the October 7th thing. Um, all the discussions about whether or not Ivy League presidents, or specifically Claudine Gay at Harvard, did what she could to address the issue and address any issues of anti-Semitism on campus. I don't believe anti-Semitism as as bad as the advocates say. I mean, there might be some instances, and that's not acceptable, but I think that they pretty much railroaded Gay out on that charge, and then it brought on all the anti DEI and all the anti wokeness, and and Harvard was held up as the example. Oh, it's because of places like Harvard and places like all these places that are so woke, and so now we have this anti Ivy thing going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think it's due to?
Well, it's part of the trend of anti-elitism, and I think it also is complemented or even exacerbated, if we want to go that far,
Mhm.
by the fact that so many of the least liked politicians, uh, especially those in the Senate, right,
Yeah,
are graduates, and not only graduates with BA and MA degrees, but we're talking about JDs,
yeah,
and MDs. I mean, they got their law school,
right.
degrees at Ivy League schools, and so when you see that co-relationship, there's a logical connection between bad politics and people who are very successful, even though they commit bad politics. Earlier on, you said I would tip my hat to people, and I asked, how about Ted Cruz? You're going to tip your hat to him? And he's probably maybe shy of Josh Hawley. Those two are some of the worst uh, liked,
Yeah,
least liked, okay, senators in that institution, and yet there they are. They're successful, and then
and
yet
both of them Ivy League. Both of them Ivy League.
yes, absolutely. You
Yeah,
know, sometimes double Ivy League, right? Like because
yeah.
they went to Yale for some, and then Harvard
Princeton.
for others. Yeah, that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
so yeah, so people make that connection. It's easy to do that, especially when you are having trouble making decisions about whether or not you can afford, certain groceries, where you feel even if you can afford the groceries that you're pinched, right, economically. That the more you have to spend on groceries and transportation, like fuel and all that, the less you have to do enjoyable things, leisure time and all that. And so people, the middle class in its best economic position, right, which is 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Uh, they set a standard. The experience over that 30-year period, right, set a standard for what you're supposed to be, what is accessible to you materially and socially in terms of status, right? In
mhm,
American society as a member of the middle class. And then beginning in the 80s, you started to see a downward disposition of the middle class so that it started to have many issues that are more in common with the working class, okay, and even the working poor than with the aspirant uh, wishes, right, of the middle class and the upper middle class. So there's a clear separation. Now there's an upper middle class that's more uh, clearly affiliated with the upper class. And then there's everybody else with a middle class that's more affiliated with the working class. And all at the same time, people still don't identify with the need to discuss the poor, with the need to discuss the working poor, right?
right.
And
They
instead,
get
you hear
left
the
out.
Democrats who like to say that we're for the middle class. They're always talking about the middle class. Okay, they're not talking about the working poor. They're not.
Yeah,
They address it indirectly by talking about minimum wage standards, those kinds of issues, but they don't talk it about the working poor. That's a reality, you know. And when you have members of the middle class who were born into the middle class, right? You have two generations now of people born into the middle class who cannot afford a home. Okay, they cannot afford a home. I was, so we get these postcards from real estate
Yeah.
companies nearby, and they show you what sold recently and how much they sold for. I was shocked at, there's an area that's a fringe location, not quite in St. Francis Wood, but right on the edge of St. Francis Wood. It's really close by, and it was a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, older home. Like I said, built in the teens or twenties, the
Yeah.
1900s, teens or twenties, for over $4 million for that property
In the city.
in the city. Over $4 million for that property. I personally think that's way overpriced. Somebody bought it.
Yeah.
There's another home in the Sunnyside district, which is adjacent to the neighborhood where we live right now, and it's only a few blocks away, right? Um, and again, 3 bedroom, 2.5 baths, really older home. We're talking about a Queen Anne style, something post Queen Anne, Victorian style.
Those are nice. That's nice.
Pitched roof, yeah, still nice.
Yeah.
But from the outside, it looked pretty much like the house was in when it was built.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's got a large lot, and that's on their side. But it's in the Sunnyside neighborhood, which is not as scaled upward as the neighborhood where I'm sitting in right now. Okay, $2.5 million,
Yeah.
and I thought, now that's almost $1 million higher than my home.
Yeah. Everyone wants to be in the city, and they'll pay a price, and the market will pay. And there are people out there, whether they're from Techville or they're from Asia, if they've got dollars. Well, I don't know if the Asian dollars are drying up, considering how the economy is there in China. But
Hmm.
tech dollars, I mean, AI, they're going faster and faster, and the money's coming in, and AI is backing Trump. All the tech people, Zuckerberg, um, Sam Altman, Chat GPT guy, or Open GPT or whatever, Open AI, um, Google. Everyone's contributing millions of dollars. Bezos, billions of dollars
Yep.
or millions rather, millions to the inaugural
Yeah, the
party.
inaugural.
So this is going to be like the Great Gatsby, right? This is going to be like the Roaring Twenties. They're going to make hay. Meanwhile, people below them are looking at the price of eggs, and this is why elites are having a bad name.
Yep, that's so people want to blame somebody, and they want to they don't aspire to be that except for the money.
Yeah,
They don't want to be like these people who evidently get this high priced education and then act in a manner that's only for their own self interest, even though they're charged with the responsibility by being elected, right, of representing their constituents.
yeah. All right,
So,
but see, by limit, it's a good critique, except you limit it just to those who are Ivy League or politicians. Not all of the people who are, have been to an Ivy League school, either uh, for undergrad, graduate, or extreme professional degrees. I don't know what an extreme professional degree would be, but
no,
MBA,
I agree with you. I know where you're
not
going
all of
with
them.
this. I agree
Yeah,
with you. No, now it's broadened even further. A lot of people are just criticizing that this already started happening during COVID and in the post-COVID period. They started saying, "What are they teaching? The wokeism, right?
yeah.
Is at all of these colleges." So I don't want my kid to go to college, at least at one of those places where they do wokeism, because
I
it
was,
turns,
yeah,
all of a sudden they want to change genders.
yeah, right. And so, yeah, I changed before I got there. Yeah, I I went there pre woke. I
Yeah,
went there
yeah.
pre woke, and no, but I went there and then rejected the course that many went, toward the corporate. But that's sort of the thing that gets me. That with a broad brush, it's all anti-Ivy now, and
Yeah,
it's
that's right. And well, but see, you just said that it's not only anti-Ivy, it's also anti-college, anti-university now. So
yeah,
what's that going to do? Is it going to have a cultural effect on families so that they don't want to send their kids to college? And where does that leave us, right?
make us make us dumber.
Well, except for those cultures that highly prize education and
Right.
quality education. So I asked this question, and I've asked it before on your show, and that is, have you noticed the presence of South Asians? You know, if nowhere else, just among the nominees, right,
Yeah.
for cabinet positions and under cabinet positions in heads of important institutions that have been put up by Mr. Trump. Okay, now how could that happen? How could you also have look at the Republican presidential primaries, right? There was two South Asians, right? Uh, just among the Republicans. Okay, the Democrats just had the one, and she's half black, right?
Yeah.
But wow, what a rise to these. Then you look at Congress and a lot of the elected people. You look at the state levels and how many people, South Asian and Indian specifically, right,
Right.
that have succeeded in gaining political office. Others who are CEOs of important companies, particularly in Silicon Valley, right, among other things, and there they are, really obvious. And you and I have had conversations on this show about the rise of the South Asian community economically. We talked about their
Yeah.
arrival in the 70s. They're developing small S&Ls, doing mall development, right? Following somewhat the pattern that was set by the Chinese beforehand, with real estate investment and mall development. And they kept turning that over and increasing their hold and then developing a second generation, right? That's engaged in politics. And remember when I used to make fun of it all the time. In the 80s, around April or May, yeah, the local newspapers would do a feature on the kids that won scholarships.
Right.
Remember that? And they'd have
Yeah.
them, out, with their pictures and everything, what school they went to and all that stuff. Obviously, Lowell was extremely well represented.
Hey, that's how I met you.
Lowell was extremely yeah, yeah. But the difference is that we're years apart in age, and I went to a private school, right, which didn't, it was all men at the time, but
Catholic.
anyway,
Catholic. Catholic.
Catholic, Jesuit
Catholic school.
institution. But anyway, the when you opened up the pages, I would laugh my butt off. Percent of the people were Asian, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell who
Yeah.
the new guys were because they started increasing in numbers, right? And so
Yeah.
over the years, when we hit the 90s and the first decade of this new millennium, right? All of a sudden, there's all kinds of Indian kids in there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some Pakistanis as well. Because
Yeah.
these are people whose families I knew, so I knew what their ethnicity was, and it was like, wow, man. And I said, look at that. They just surpassed the other three major populations, right? The
Well,
early
yeah.
populations, the Japanese first, the Japanese Americans, the Chinese Americans, and the Filipino Americans. They passed them
Yeah.
right
And
up.
and they're more numerous now. Well, they're vying for the lead with the Chinese.
That's
It's
right.
Chinese, Indian, Filipino. That's the rank.
That's right.
So, and just I think we're going to see.
Well,
Uh,
where's that Filipino representation? I had a conversation with a couple of your colleagues on Asiam News
mm,
a few weeks ago, and one of them said, "Oh, you're Filipino. What? Why aren't there Filipinos?" He inferred that that we needed Filipinos to run for supervisorial positions, and get ready for that by maybe running for Board of Education. We've had that, and we've had some people be successful, right, at
Yeah.
getting on the Board of Education. But
Ixerbatos.
yeah, well, that's a long time ago. I mean, more
Yeah.
recently, there was the woman who was on the Board of Education, and everybody was looking at her as potential supervisor, and and there was an opportunity, a professional opportunity for her husband in Texas, and she was also offered a position in Texas, so they moved. I remember seeing them at one of the night markets, and we chatted it up, and she was prepping me for that she was going to leave, and I thought, wow, that's really unfortunate because. She was a
Who?
strong candidate for the
Yeah.
supervisor.
Did the Filipino woman win for supervisor this year in the city?
No, not that I know of.
Oh, there was one who was running,
Yeah,
but she lost.
yeah.
I didn't follow.
I well, I
But
followed it for a moment, but
but
uh,
they have there are Filipino. Well, see, here's the thing: is it what does it mean if Filipinos don't run and aren't represented? Is that I mean, is it bad? I think it would be instinctively, but maybe it's the circumstances are such that not
I don't know if it's. I think it's bad if we don't have people who are willing to run, not just
yeah
for supervisor, but for
anything
willing. Yes,
yeah
okay, to work up to that office. There were a couple of articles, not only in Asiam News, but I can't remember where. It was in San Francisco Standard.
yeah
There were a couple
they're a good
articles,
paper.
yeah, that mentioned um, the decrease in Chinese representation in
Oh
elected
yeah. Yeah.
office in San Francisco, which has occurred, over the last 20 years.
Well,
Uh,
they're moving out of the city. That's the problem.
Well, and one
They're
of
not.
the
They're
one
not.
of the responses that I had to one of the writers who writes for the Standard as well as Asiam News was, we have a decreasing population, and it's not only in San Francisco; it's also in Daly City,
Yeah.
where we have good, strong representation on their city council, okay, and where we have failed to get representation on the county supervisors, okay.
Well, the failure really is in making it known or preparing younger generations to step in because they would rather do other things. They would rather do something more fun. They would rather do something that's more real to them, which is something I can't say is a bad thing. I mean, if politics isn't in your heart, if it isn't in your heart to go out and knock on doors and you know win an election and and then lead through policy and I people, it's got to be in their thing, in their wheelhouse, or you don't do it. And
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily. I think it says something that Filipinos don't feel that way because you would think that we would have other leaders in front of us who would say, "Oh well, yeah, we're gonna," you know. I mean, we just got Filipinos just got a member of the California legislature this year, first time ever.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, I
and
was just reviewing this. I don't see any Filipino who ran for soup
I thought
in San Francisco in 2024.
I thought her name was Philhan. Philhan? No, she didn't run.
No, I don't think so.
Arjan.
Oh. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. No, I don't think she ran this time.
So
Yeah, yeah.
that's one of the That's one of the things about people who run. They have to have their reasons, and sometimes people run for the wrong reasons, and sometimes people are called. You know, we need our, who is it? We need our Gandhi. We need we need someone.
You know,
I mean,
yeah,
but then you look at someone like Bonta. It's great that Bonta's there. I'm really glad that he's risen as Attorney General, because I think that's a real stepping stone to something else. I don't know what, the governorship. I don't know. Not if Kamala Harris wants to be governor.
that's the problem.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
is the
does
key
she want to be
problem.
governor? I don't know if she wants to be governor. Probably to stay relevant, maybe. Uh, then then you either become a, and then there's no place for Gavin Newsom, and where does he go? Uh,
That's right.
and then there's, and so you're AG. Maybe you take the Javier uh, Becerra route and become a bureaucrat. So, see, a lot of these things in politics, it's timing, and it's also, hey,
That's
is
right.
this what you're meant to be? Is this what?
Well, I think Gavin can sit it out, and try to stay in the news somehow, and maybe stake out a slice for Democratic primaries for 28.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. This is all due to term limits, and
Yep.
there. I don't know. I like term limits somewhat because you get fresh faces, but when you get someone who's good at the job and they go on this
There it
revolving
is.
door,
Yeah,
yeah,
there it is. On the one hand, fresh face is a good idea, right? You get turnover and all that. But when they're new, the people who have the real power for the first 2 years, okay, is their staff.
yeah,
The deep state, right?
right, right.
it's the
Because
it's those people. Yeah,
the member
it's
knows nothing.
yeah. That well, they know something, but they don't know the reality of how it works on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah,
And that learning thing, that learning curve, is faster for some than others. But I've seen people really grab a hold of that and make it work because they had great chiefs of staff, right? Their chiefs of staffs were really
yeah,
experienced, and they got them through. And that's the case with Bonta. But see, Bonta, everybody that I've ever talked to said, I've met him, but I don't know him personally well enough to say what others have said. And he said this guy's really, really smart. You know, I met his mom. I knew her from way back.
yeah,
In
yeah.
the
I
in
had the
the
same
70s.
birthday as his mom.
Oh, that's right.
His mom,
That's
his
right.
mom and my birthday are the same.
Whose birthday was around the same time, and they had a joint birthday party about 5 years ago. It was pre-COVID, and it was Lillian Galedo
Oh yeah,
and
Lillian.
Cynthia Bonta had a joint birthday party.
Oh,
And
their birthdays are the same.
they're not the same day, but they're the same time period.
Oh,
Same
I've
period.
known Lillian for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so the I think, I'm sorry, I took you off track about Bonta, but who knows? I mean, he's sort of like the leading light in California for people of color. Um,
Well, isn't it refreshing to see an Asian face that?
oh yeah, yeah, but like I said, I don't know where he goes. I mean, if he gets term limited, um,
Yep,
you
yep.
know,
Uh,
you
yeah,
know,
me too.
it's
He's not strong enough connected with San Francisco. If he's got city strength, it's in the East Bay,
yeah,
and his wife is successful there.
yeah. But I mean,
Uh,
you want to be mayor of Oakland? You want to be,
yeah, see, that's it.
it's like I don't know,
That's
mayor of Oakland wouldn't be enough.
well,
You,
not in that. It's crazy time, right?
oh, right now, yeah,
Because from a budget point of view, they're in, all of the cities in the Bay are in real trouble.
Yeah.
Uh,
To
in
deal with the problems they need to deal with, yeah, definitely they're in trouble.
Yeah, no, I
So,
think you're right. I think maybe getting if there's a future Democratic governor, the next governor after Newsom, Bonta could cruise into a appointed position for a while and then look at what opens up uh, congressionally. But when you're an attorney general, I think Harris set the pattern, right?
yeah.
If you're going to go to federal government, it's got to be either a major appointment, you know,
Or
uh,
vice president.
yeah, vice president or a senator, you know,
Yeah.
and
Actually, I think she would have been better if she stayed as senator in some
yeah,
ways.
I think so too. I think she knows that too.
I
You
think
know,
she'd still be there, but ambition, right?
yeah, for her it was circumstance. I mean, she took the vice presidency, and usually that's it. Once your candidate goes out of office, it's over. But what happened was, uh, Joe Biden thought that he was the only uh, Trump beater,
Yeah.
exclusively, which is again letting your ego get ahead of your logic and reality. And then he started showing all kinds of weakness. I mean, people already saw him as a weak guy because he's kind of understated when he explains to the public what's going on, when he takes a position, however strong that position might be. He's not in campaign mode, and if he's not in campaign mode, he's just very matter of fact. And in
Yeah.
today's society, because of another Trump effect, right? You
Yeah.
got to be strong. You got to be aggressive. You got to be really firm and authoritative all the time. And Joe Biden's not that kind of personality.
Yeah.
Okay? And so people see him as weak. They see Trump as strong, However fake that strength is that he projects, they see Trump as strong. They've never met, a foolish bully. And I've met, on tens, if not dozens, of foolish bullies in my long life. And, I was either able to ignore them and just move on,
Mhm.
and work around them, or take them on in some instances and just take them off the board, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't relish doing that. But
Yeah.
there's some people that are just so uh, uh, really aggressive, and there's a lot of them are really successful. I
Yeah.
worked around them. They were very successful in areas that are not. Um, while I enjoy what goes on in the arts, I am not engaged as an artist or as a direct supporter of any more than one or two artists, right? Uh, and when you get someone who's really strong in a particular field, uh, and they're being very aggressive and they wipe out some of the competition among their fellow artists, they're going to succeed the same way that you say we've got these people who are very successful. You got to tip your hat to their ability, and we've got people like that, from our communities, from communities of color, and from the general society, the general community. We've got people like that. They're really good. They're really strong. Not the kind of folks that I would directly want us to support, but at the same time, they're popular in the community, and they've got the support that they need to
Yeah.
be great.
Sometimes people confuse popularity, name recognition with, they say, well, where can I use this? How can I take advantage of this?
Yeah.
And then it takes them down the wrong path and usually
Well,
doesn't
that's
work.
where we are right now. So I think you know we need to look. I need to make a bunch of calls and talk to other Asian American leaders, not only of my generation but of the next two generations down, and see who the possibilities are. I know that there's some people from the Richmond district and also from the Mission and south of Market that
Yeah.
have been engaged in local San Francisco County, city, and county politics since they were kids, and I see the potential for them to do well.
Yeah,
Um,
what I notice is that I see the National Association of Asian or National Association of Filipino American, NAFA.
oh, NAFA, yeah.
Yeah, and I just see it. I mean, it's there. I know. Are they effective? Um, I just remember when they started, with Escamado way back when, and it's just, it just has grown
I
into
was there. I
something.
attended those meetings, those first few meetings. I think
Yeah, I
I
know.
remember
I did
seeing you
too.
there.
I
Yeah.
just I don't know if I recognize Nafa anymore. That's good. It's a it's
Well, yeah, it's time for there is a younger group of people moving in, okay?
yeah,
And there's some
definitely.
really promising people, but they're staffers, okay? And
Yeah,
so I was really impressed because they're really bright. They know the issues. They know what approach to take. Their tactical analysis as well as their strategic analyses are really good. So I was impressed as hell. That I participated in one of those national convocations that they had online, right? And
yeah.
and I thought, wow, man, there's some really strong people. But are they willing to take that risk? Are they willing to move from being an experienced staffer to actually running for something? It's been about, my God, it's got to be during COVID
Yeah.
that conference occurred online, and I haven't checked back with them to see if they're
It,
willing to do that.
it
I know
takes
a
some
couple of
time.
Chinese Americans that have tried running for um, county Democratic county council,
Yeah.
and which is a stepping stone, right? And they got blown away by people who were supporting other candidates with like $1 million freaking donations to their campaigns. And I said, wait a minute. That's just the Democratic Council, and people
See,
are throwing that kind of money at
see,
at,
you
at
said
the
it. You put
competition.
that's the thing. Politics is money. Money
I
is
was
dirty,
shocked. I was
and
shocked. I said, I remember in the '80s when people were ticked off that it took them $100,000 to get elected to the Board of Education.
yeah.
I mean that's when it started. It was like 25 grand, and you
Yeah,
could
yeah, it
get
was
enough
cheap. It was,
advertising. It went up to 50, and people didn't complain that much. They chucked it up to inflation. But then, $100,000, and I said, for Board of Education, so what's it going to be for soups? Is it going to be five hundred
yeah,
thousand? Like, and that's exactly where it went. And then
yeah,
thanks to Citizens United and this wonderful Supreme Court,
yeah.
Elon Musk can chunk in, 10 million bucks at a time. He's on the record for 100 million plus in contributions in some way or another to the
Two
Trump
hundred
campaign.
million. I think it's 250
Really?
million.
They finally got it over 200. Yeah, they kept on saying 100 million, over 100 million. Then somebody said 180 million.
No,
So I
the
don't know.
latest I saw was 250, something like
Well,
that.
there it is, and
Yeah,
that's nickel and dime for him.
and
That's like the
exactly.
equivalent of us sitting down at a $100 table stakes game, poker
Hey,
game.
here's the thing about Musk, because Trump is a lame duck. He's out. What you got to look for is you got to look for these young guys who are like, sort of like lurking. I include the vice president. I include JD Vance. You got to watch out for him. You got to watch out for Musk. You got to, because Musk, it's all about money, right? In the
There
end,
it is. Thank you.
and
Thank once again to Citizens United. You know,
and and so he'll self fund. He'll say, "I don't need your money. I'll just fund it myself."
Yeah,
I'll
and
just
really do it, not
and
like
really
Trump.
do it. Yeah, yeah.
Trump said, "I will self fund," and then he goes, "Donate here."
And this is the crazy thing about where we are in politics. It has become a money game, and the people who are winning complain about the elites when they are the elites themselves. You know,
They're voting for the elites.
yeah, I
They're
know,
voting
but I
for the
mean,
elites.
this,
We got people who are complaining about the elites and criticizing, DEI programs at well, now we can say the former DEI programs, right? Affirmative
yeah,
action programs at major universities, and then they're saying that's all wrong. we got to do away with that. And then now the universities and guess what? The corporations are saying, well, the thing is
Yeah.
that a lot of the best people that we ever got that were really creative and problem solvers and came up with new ideas out of the box were people of color and women. Oh no.
Yeah.
That's what they're finding. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, let's keep them out. Let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of. I can't wait to see them try to even get 10,000 people out of the Latino, the Mexican population, and
See,
move them out. I
see
can't wait to see that happen.
when they start. Oh, you're talking about the mass deportations.
Yeah, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
they're never going to be able to do mass, right? But they're going to start by trying to get rid of. They say we're going to do the criminals first, okay? So they're going to be hunting down criminals and pulling them aside and then sending them out. I can't wait to see it happen because they will make mistakes, and when they do those mistakes, the media, the legitimate media, will get out there and inform the people, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
All right, Dan. On that score, we were going to just go for 30 minutes today, but
Yeah, what happened, man?
I know you started going off on these other things, and we don't even get the chance to talk about the 49ers. But
I
there's
don't want to
nothing
talk
to say.
about. I
There's
don't
nothing
want
to
to
say
talk
about
about
the
the
49ers.
Niners.
Nothing to say about the 49ers.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring back George Myra. Remember George Myra?
Oh wow! Woo!
No, George Myra was not good. He was not good. He was actually
That was
bring back
well,
Steve
and we
Spurrier.
had him for a while.
Steve Spurrier.
We had Cap. We had Cap for a while until he went over to Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Cap. Oh, Joe Cap.
Yeah,
Joe Cap. Bless you. Bless you there.
yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
So Dan, all right. December 14th,
Anyway, it was
2020.
fun. I'm sorry I dragged you down these
No, that's
topics.
all right. That's all right. No, it's good. It's good. We talked about insurance. We talked about, we'll follow Luigi, his case. And don't know if we got to the bottom of exactly why people are suddenly more, sympathetic and what it says about our nation. It means we're not as nice, but we knew that from the election that we're not as nice. We're not nice people, right?
Well, yeah, that's. Don't forget. I mean, the estimate so far is that it was the reason Trump won was because 10 million people who register as Democrats didn't vote.
Are they saying that 10
That was
million?
that was one of the things that was floated. I have to verify that.
I don't know if that's true. I think, well, also, the Latinos and the blacks who voted the other way. But
Yeah,
basically, I think we're not in a nice country. Forget about the people who didn't vote, just the
no,
people who voted for Trump.
no.
We're not a nice country.
America is now the story of mean streets. It's people who are really mean. All you got to do is look at the way they drive. Get out
Yeah.
of the man. People are so aggressive.
Mean.
You
We're
know?
mean. We're mean.
Yeah,
We're not
they're really
friendly.
mean. They're
We're
they're
not,
they're
not
hyper
friendly.
aggressive and really mean. Yeah, it's what 30 years ago, 20 years ago, people were complaining about a lack of courtesy.
Yeah. Were
Now
they? No
now,
courtesy.
yeah, there is a courtesy. What's
Courtesy.
that?
That's a la
People.
carte. You got to pay
Yeah,
extra for that.
yeah, yeah,
Pay extra for courtesy.
yeah.
Everything you got to pay. We privatize courtesy. You got to pay for that.
I still hold the door for people when I enter a building and stuff. And if there's somebody right behind me, I still hold the
Not
door.
me. If I hold the door, I expect to be paid. I'm privatizing my niceness.
Yeah, well, one of my
Privatize.
friends was attending a hotel thing at the St. Francis, and he was in a tux. It was a black tie event. He was in a tux, but he wanted to smoke a cigar, and he went out on the curb, fired up a cigar, and was standing around. This guy's a practicing attorney, and somebody passed him a nickel, a five spot, and said, could you wave a cab down for me? Yeah. So I said, what'd you do? He goes, I waved the damn cab down for him.
Actually, I always said, "Oh, that's going to be 10, sir. That's going to be 10."
Yeah, I believe you would.
Yeah.
Anyway, All right, man. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
All right. There
It
he
was a
goes.
really good conversation. It was also really good. I got to meet Nicholas, man. I mean, he sounds like a really
Nick's
great guy.
Nick's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you
yeah.
more about him
And he's
off
all
the air.
if he's
Oh, oh,
in the
oh,
Libra
oh.
Club. If he's
What
also a
happened?
Libra, he should join the Libra dinner
Oh
club.
yeah, the Libra. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sure. We'll do that next time. All right,
Yeah.
Dan.
All
I'll be
right.
in touch. Thanks. There he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, Asian American professor emeritus, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. We just talk about things because we can. Because this is what we. I don't need a big stick, one of those transmitters to broadcast 100 million people, 100,000 watts, 50,000 watts, 10,000 watts, 5,000. I just put it out there. We talk about Asian American stuff, about the news, about tornadoes, a lot today. Anyway, I hope you're safe. Hope you're having a good Saturday. We'll repeat this on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Emil Amok. It'll be there if you missed any or all of this. You find us on YouTube, on the Emil Amok, at Emil Amok 1, Facebook, Twitter. A lot of people on Twitter find us there. So I'm not totally dissing X. Twitter is good. But I don't know. I was watching Elon Musk on TV, and I'm thinking, he gives the money to Trump, 250 million. He just bypasses giving the money. Just run for president himself. That's going to be the thing. I think that's going to be his play at some point. I mean, that's what's scary about this. That it's all about a money thing. You talk about, oh, well, where are the Filipinos running for anything locally? Even locally, it costs money to run. Politics, it used to be a joke to say, oh, politics was showbiz for ugly people. But no, it's for real. And politics, showbiz for ugly people. Because if you run in politics, you need the backers. You need the financials. This is our democracy. This is our democracy. All right. Have a great weekend, or what's left of this. We'll repeat this. I like to close with a little. I'll do the laughter yoga on Patreon. I keep saying that, and then I do it, but I'm going to do it because I'm a laughter yogi. I'm a laughter yogi. But I do meditate, and I find that in times like this, or times like these times, loving kindness always works. Sharon Salzberg, guru, says, throw it out there, comes back twofold. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Oh, check me out on Substack too. Substack.com/Emil Amok. Till next time. Mahal